welcome back. It has been a while since we've done this, has it not?
I mean, it's been a minute.
It's been a minute. I had one of my students. He's like, "Coach, when you and your wife doing y'all's podcast thing again?" I was like, "We on the way."
Oh, shout out to you.
He needs help. He needs help, and I hope you listen to it. So, but at the end of the day, we've been busy these last couple of weeks, as we said we would be. The reason why we've been holding off of just doing it.
And also just preparing, yes, we have our banter, we laugh, we joke and everything, but the biggest thing that we always strive for is making sure that we're doing what God wants us to do and speaking on what God wants us to do. So sometimes that means we got to pause and make sure that we're talking about what he wants us to talk about and not just what we want to talk about.
Yeah, and it might take a little longer than usual. We don't want to just rush it out. And I think that's the thing what a lot of people do these days is they just rush out a product and it's not fully ready. So we want to definitely make sure that we're doing our due diligence and making sure that we are speaking, honestly to what God is having for us. And I think this series is going to be another good one. I hope you checked out the last one. I think Home Improvement was really good for opening back up and the Happily Ever After Hours. So we are excited to get series number 2 started.
Yeah, and in case this is actually your first series watching us, we're the Burkhalters. This is my husband, Travis. I'm Brianna. We've been married for 4 years, and we're just here doing life, and we want to do life with you guys. And so the things we talk about is not us preaching to you, not us telling you how to live your life, but literally things that we go through and we feel like most people are going through, and we just, want to talk through it with you.
Yeah, and it's something that I always say, I think it really kind of hit me when I turned 30, is that we all go through the same things just at different times in our lives. And when I got divorced, I was like, I can't be the only one that's going through a divorce. And of course I'm not. It's like 60% divorce rate here in Oklahoma. So that's high. And then you add on top of coaching, what I used to do, but I'm still coaching, life, like we talked about in the last series. If you haven't checked it out, go check that out. It drastically increases your chances of being divorced. Mm-hmm. And so we want to make sure that we are speaking on stuff that is relevant and I think timely.
Yeah, definitely. But we done talking about the divorce stuff because now I'm here and it's amazing.
It's amazing. It is. It is. Real talk. I actually had one of my students, I let her look at one of my pictures and she was like, "Oh, I love the life that you have. It just looks like you're excited and happy."
Oh.
And I was like, "That's sweet." But I am. You know what I mean? I really am. You could just see the exuberance on my face and the glow that I have.
That's good. That's
as a husband. And I take the role very seriously.
That's good. Because if you don't know, we're expecting a child very, very soon. And
part of the reason why we've been slowing down.
Absolutely. And so, there's a lot of things that go with that. And one of the things is picking a name. Mm-hmm. And it kind of goes with what this series is talking about.
It does.
In a sense.
Yeah. And names are important. One thing that about me is when a student has a name, whatever it is, crazy, normal, etc., I want to make sure that I get their name right because name is power. And if your name is Daniel, right? And I say Danielle, correct me. Because I want to make sure that I'm doing due diligence, right? Some people say, "Oh, I don't care, it's just a name." No, it's your name. That is the name that you give out to the world. "Hi, my name is," or "I am so and so." So we want to make sure that we're doing a good job of respecting people.
Yeah, I remember in high school, I would have teachers that would be like, "Oh, Brianna," and I was just like, "My name is Brianna." Totally different. And I would make sure that they knew. And she was an assistant coach, and she always would laugh because she would see the cringe on my face if we went to a visiting school and they were announcing us and they would say Brianna, and she would just be look down at me "You good?" And I'm just no, I have a U in my name. It's Anna. I don't get why people don't get that. So kudos to you with your students, because people don't realize like how important that is. And, you know, names have meaning.
Names have meaning.
You know? And it's important to recognize that. Because, like, now, I mean, I've always liked to do things differently and, like, to stand out and everything. But now, names are so weird. Like, people give their kids the weirdest names now.
Yeah, no, I had a buddy of mine in college tell me that his friend, like, not his friend, but a girl in his class name was LaDasha. And I was like, what you mean? He was like, her name literally was L-A. And I said, what?
Like, you're setting your kids up for so much.
What? We had a running joke too, you know, because there's a guy named Jamarcus Russell. You know, he was a football player. There's a LaMarcus Aldridge. There's always these add-on names in the black community. And, you know, some friends of mine was like, we're going to call you LaTravis. And I'm like, don't do that. Like,
that's not my name.
That's not it. That's not it. We have a special guest. It is 11:20, and she refuses to go to sleep when she's supposed to. But she's going to sit over here with mommy and see what we're talking about. And that's why we're here.
Yeah, so, I mean, I guess my random question this time. Well, wait, before I get into my random question, we didn't even tell them what the series is. We just started
kind of hinting about it a little bit.
Go ahead and tell them.
My name is, right? And we want to make sure that you, as the audience, kind of know who God says you are, right? Because in the world, we're going to have other things put on us. Brother, sister, mother, father, friend, foe, backstabber, whatever it is. These are a lot of things that, you know, the world puts on us. And we want to know what he says about us. And we want to apply that to our lives because I'm going to be frank with you. There was this girl that I taught in Oklahoma City when I used to teach there. She was really upset to me. She like, Coach, these girls keep calling me ho. And I'm like, well, why are they calling you that? Because I did such. I said, okay, chill out. Like, are you that though? She was like, no, I'm not. I said, okay then. Like, so I know it's easier said than done. I understand that. But if you allow them to call you that and you getting riled up, then they're going to just keep doing it. Mm-hmm. But if one, I told her, know who you are in God. She didn't really have a relationship with him. I pray she does now. But I was just like, don't let that affect you. You know what I'm saying? If that ain't who you are and that's not how you go about your business, then it really ain't gonna matter. They're gonna say what they're gonna say. But as long as you know truly who you are, then, it's to the birds. So
yeah. And that's what we're going to talk about because I feel like a lot of people really don't know who they are. Mm-hmm. So like that's great advice, but if you really don't know who you are, you can't really apply that.
Yeah.
And so it's really important to take that time to learn who you are. And that's something that you do over and over with different phases of life. Like you may be a person over and over, Robin said. You may be a different person than you were as a child than you are as an adolescent.
Right.
And then as an adolescent into early adulthood and then early adulthood into your mid 30s and 40s, you're going to change. And so you have to continue to say like, okay, what kind of person do I want to be or who am I? Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of the things that we're going to be talking about. But now I can ask my question.
I also, yes, I'll let you go to that.
Oh, well, go ahead.
Well, I was going to go on to saying, like, because we live in a time right now, we have people that are in their 50s acting like they're 20.
Yeah. I think there's a level.
Okay,
there's a level. And, like, be active so you can have a good life, but the mentality.
But you having drama.
That mentality is.
Yeah, you having that drama that is for, you should have grown out of that a little bit. And I think that's a hindrance to a lot of things that's going on in the world today.
Yeah.
Like I'm watching, everybody know the Pop Balloon show. I seen someone today when these women, they're like in their 40s and the dude was in his 40s.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, it was actually pretty decent. Dude was like a librarian and he has his own like business and this, that, and the other. And it was like, man, that's a guy that you would assume would be knocking women off, because he seemed to have his head on straight from what I saw. Mm-hmm. Don't know the man from Adam is what they say, I think. But one of the girls popped the balloons, and she was 42, you know? And she was like, oh, everything that you said was good, and you look handsome. I just popped it because you just too much energy for me.
Huh?
That don't even make sense. That don't make sense. You 40. You need to be slowing down a little bit. Not, you know, I'm touching it. You know, I'm creeping on it. You feel me? But I'm not trying to be out and about. I'm not trying to be all turned up at 42, 44, all right, whatever that is. You know, we're gonna have a little session, but it ain't gonna be like all day. Like that's you gotta grow up out of that somewhat. But anyways, babe, sorry, that just came to my head. What is it? What is the question?
So since we're talking about names, what do you, well, actually I shouldn't say what, but do you know what your name means? Like your first name?
Yeah, I do. We looked it up. You know, we prepped for this. It's a good question. Look at what your name what your name is, what it means, right? And I'm trying to apply that. And then honestly think about it, because what my name means is adventurous. Travis, you know, and it was, you know, that's kind of me. Like when I think about it, right? I really think that kind of fit with me. And I was kind of shocked by it. But it also means someone who is adventurous, bold, and willing to explore new horizons. And that for me is really funny because God knew my name before I knew my name. He knew my name before my mom knew my name. You know what I'm saying? So he put my name into her heart and said, hey, this is who he's going to be. And for me, now looking back at it, like I really don't mind going out there and trying to attack the world. I'm from Eufaula, Oklahoma. It's 3,500 people tops, right? I go to college in Wyoming. I travel 1,100.
I was gonna say like
1,100 miles away. 1,100 miles away from my family, my friends, and wanted to grow up. And so I just really like that helped me to be able to be okay with leaving home.
Yeah.
And I think that really fits who I am. So that was really wild. Since we have our special guest here, I'll read what her name means because we want to make sure that we know what our children's name means. We don't want to just give them something out. That's the first thing. That's who they introduce themselves as into this world. And
you're covering them in that. Like,
yeah.
That's the first thing. Are you blessing your children or are you cursing them?
Mm-hmm. That's a really good way to put it too.
Yeah.
That's a really good way to put it. And I think a lot of people, I'm gonna say people don't think about what they're gonna name their children. You know,
a lot of people do it just on either uniqueness or cuteness or whatever, but that's not everybody. We can't speak for everybody.
Yeah.
But from
pop culture, it seems that, you know, people aren't really thinking about, like you said, LaDasha, right? I don't know if that means anything. It might. I don't know. But what Robin means is bright flame and a messenger. And her middle name is Antoinette, and it means a priceless one. And that's kind of who she is. She is definitely a bright flame. Mm-hmm. She definitely is our messenger because when she was in mommy's belly, she was visiting people in their dreams. And people was like, I had a dream about your daughter. I'm like, how you have? But she got something to say, and she gonna say it. That's for sure.
And still does.
And she gonna do it. And then our son Roman, his name is Strong and Powerful, and his middle name is Alexander. He's a helper. He's one who assists men, protector, and he's a defector. Which defector is kind of, that's a wild one.
Yeah.
But he kind of be defecting a little bit, but he definitely is a helper. He loves to help, and he likes to just think he's strong. One day he's going to be more stronger than I am, and that's going to be fun. But the lady of the house, what does your name mean?
Well, apparently I'm like High Noble.
High Noble. Mm-hmm.
Which I love it because
it fits who you are.
Thank you.
You like you said, you like to feel special, and there are times when you have a little privilege. You like, oh, this for me.
let me tell y'all real quick. So, because I know he's thinking what I'm thinking. So, when we lived in the city, we used to go to the comedy club because we both like to laugh, and so it would just be something fun for us to do when there was like special, people that we wanted to see. And when you go, like, you can get regular tickets and you'll sit at a table with, it could be random stranger people, but it's like a certain amount of people. But then they had these high top tables that were like just you and whoever you're with. And so he went and got the high top table. So we were like, in my head, VIP, because we had our own table and you couldn't tell me nothing. So in conclusion, it's just, and I think also not even in that way noble, but I take it noble also as like a graceful
the way you carry
femininity type thing. And I feel like that's what I strive to be an example of. So
I think it, being adventurous could just be a lot of things, and being noble could be just a lot of things. We interpret what we like about it, and she will interpret what her name is when she gets older and how she feels about it. But this series is about I hope it challenges you. That's the biggest thing, because I want people to be able to rely on God and not so much on ourselves. It's hard for us as people to say that, right? But the way that the world is unfolding, I think that we need more of God anyway, because He is the only way to salvation. Mm-hmm. And when you're righteous with God, then you are righteous in this world. And that's kind of something, like we said, we ain't gonna be over here preachy, but I think the biggest thing about it is we want to give you guys the tools for success, as we always talk about.
Yeah, plant some little seeds, and whatever you feel like your ground needs to grow, then water it. Everything is not for everybody, but it's an important reminder, even for us, like, to make sure that we don't get caught up so much in what's around us that we forget what's inside of us.
Ooh, so I like that. Yeah, and to end it, there's this sermon that I've been listening to. There's a bunch of different ones, but it's about Pastor Monroe from like early 2000s, and he broke down the kingdom of heaven, right? And so he had a story, and it really kind of ties in with this. Is he was saying that you as a person, right? If we'll say Charles, right, or Prince Harry, or whoever, right? They can't be king because there's already a king, right? And so there'll forever be a prince, right? And he goes into the song and tells a story of this gentleman. He wanted to be the king, but his dad was like, "You can't be king because I'm king of so and so," right? And so he was like, "But we'll go and we'll take over this new land, right? And you'll be the king of that land, and I'll be the king here. But you'll be, serving me still while you're king." And he was like, "That works," right? And so it's kind of like the same thing about Jesus and God is king, right? And He wants us to also all be kings of our world and of our lands. And He is basically wanting us to take that ownership, to know that He is obviously the King of Kings, right? And that's how He gets that moniker, is the King of Kings, because He is also the king over all of us, right? But we're the king of our own world. And so we have to be able to take that ownership because what He's put on us. He wants us to know that we are kings and queens. And so when we are in the world, right, we have to be able to move accordingly as kings do. And He doesn't want us to be servants. He doesn't want us to be lesser, right? That's why He sent His Son to give us that. And so it was a lot that he was saying, and it was a lot to take in, but that's what I got from it. And he broke it down even more. So if you ever are on YouTube, look up Dr. Monroe.
Miles Monroe.
Miles Monroe. He was an incredible orator. and an even better pastor because he makes you think. And so, that's the biggest thing that we want to help not only you but ourselves to know that we are sovereign over ourselves.
Absolutely, absolutely. So before we go, I got one more question before we go.
This is a pop question.
So this, and I can go first if you need to think about it, but just to, humanize what we're talking about and let you guys know that, like, this is something that we have gone through, we'll go through again. Can you think of a time where
Excuse me. No, sorry.
Can you think of a time where you kind of lost who you were, or you were in the process of figuring out who you were, or what you call yourself, if that makes sense? So the first thing that comes to mind for me, I'll let you think about yours, would be during my college years, like early freshman, so I'm 18, 19, that time frame. Just that transition of being at home with your parents and your family, and then now living by yourself or with your, friends or people your age, and just trying to figure out who you are. And I just remember I was in a not very good relationship, and it went south. There's a whole story. But after that happened, during that relationship, I lost who I was. I was very involved in church, and I was still, and the crazy thing is, I was still doing everything I was doing prior. But it was like I lost a piece of myself because I was so focused on that relationship, because it was my first relationship, really. And I just remember after that relationship, that person transferred schools for whatever reason. And, but people at the school that I was at was still calling me, oh, that's such and such's girlfriend, or such and such's ex-girlfriend. Like, it wasn't, oh, that's Brianna. And so it became like a thing. Like, there would be new people or new guys that would come to the school and be like, oh, she's pretty, or whatever the case was. And they'd be like, oh, you can't talk to her because that's such and such's girl. Mind you, he's long gone. Like, it's been a minute. But it was like I didn't have my own identity with other people. So then it was like I lost myself because I was focused on what other people were saying instead of worried about, well, okay, that's not the case.
So how did that make you feel, I guess?
It was a lot because I felt very empty. And I went through a really hard depression of trying to figure out, and I didn't know at the time it was depression, but looking back now, I didn't know who I was after that, and it caused me to make decisions that I probably wouldn't have made, and quit things that I probably wouldn't have quit. And it took me a long time to forgive myself, and sometimes I still have issues with some of the decisions that I made in that time, but God forgave me, so I have to forgive myself. But
that's a whole nother sermon right there.
Right. Yeah. And so it took me a long time to recognize that I wasn't that situation.
Yeah.
So
I get you. Man, mine's kind of been, I would say, the same thing over in the life, right? My biggest thing is, I think I feel more times than not like a failure, right? And again, I think it started not winning high school championships, right? Because I'm like, oh, I'm a winner, and we're going to do it. I had such a great high school record, and I never got to that state championship, and I'd feel like a failure, right? Then get to college and play college football and do what I set out to do as a athlete, and then not succeed, I think, in a way that I wanted to succeed. And then it was not graduating when I thought I should have graduated. Eventually did graduate. And then again, like we talked about, like we know about with the divorce, feeling like a failure. And so I think a lot of those times I'd lose who I was. And I would try to wear that. And I'd be like, man, you did this and you did that and you failed at that. And I think a lot of the times that stood with me. And it would make me kind of go in my shell. It made me go in my shell a lot and really a lot to myself, right? I'd stay to myself. And I didn't really talk to nobody. If I was going through something, it was, I'm going to handle it. And a lot of those things, I think it also turned outwardly to people. And I probably hurt a lot of people along my way in life. And I've prayed for forgiveness of doing people wrong or mistreating people or whatever else. But it was all due to the fact that I felt like a failure.
Yeah.
And I wore that. And so, you know, I think that was the biggest aha moment for me with God. And I started to know how he saw me. Like we were talking about earlier with the girl. I started to read more and pray more and to understand more of why I'm not a failure. And I never really had anybody say, oh, you're a failure. And I didn't need anybody to do that. I did that all myself.
Right.
You know, so I'm my biggest critic. And I think in that time, I needed someone to say you did good, but at the same time, or, you know, just to say something positive to me. I think that kind of goes into a plethora of other things that I just didn't have confidence in. And I'd always wear that confidence like, oh, I'm big and confident. But internally, I'm crying.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So those were a lot of the times where I felt like that. Now, you know, I think that thought may come up, but I easily squash it now because I know internally who I am, and I know eternally whose I am. So I think those were the biggest things that I had to kind of overcome in my life. And I'm still going to have issues where that's going to probably arise, but like Angela Maya said, still I rise. So
Who?
Angela Maya. Maya. Why?
Maya Angelou?
Maya Angelou. Why I say her name backwards?
I
Lord?
was like, dyslexia.
And I did. I was
was
like,
like,
Maya Angelou. Good Lord. I know her name. But yeah, so you know, like I said, still I rise. But yeah.
But you did say something really good. You said you know who you are and whose you are, because the similarities between both of our stories was we were looking at our identities from situations, not us. Mm-hmm. Like yours was the failure, mine was the relationship or lack thereof. Yeah. But it was an outward thing that we then internalized and decided to make it into our identity. And I feel like that's what a lot of people do. And it's like, but that's not who you are, and that's not whose you are. That's not what God says you are. That's just a circumstance that you went through that's building the character of who you are. Yeah.
And so that's very good. The character is a big part of, I think, what's missing. Yeah. For a lot of people. Yeah. Right? Because, you know, I see it on a daily basis with some of my students. They say and they do things that I don't think they necessarily think about. And that's what I told them the other day is like, when you're young, you don't really think about the consequences of your actions. Right. And so, obviously, the older you get, the more you're like, I probably should start thinking about these consequences for my actions. And it's funny like that because when you're young, you think you're invincible. And then the older you get, the more you know that you're not. And I think that's good is we need to teach that more. Right? Yeah. And so we have to do a good job as parents and as mentors and as leaders to help the younger generation and just people our age as well. Like, you know, we're gonna wrap it up. I promise. We're gonna keep this one short, but the Black Love Club today talked about fatherhood, and there was a lot of things in there that resonated with me, and it was very informative. That again, I'm not the only one that's going through or gone through this type of situation.
Yeah, just being open and transparent. It's hard because it requires you to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
But man, when you get to that point where it's like, I have to be vulnerable or what am I doing? It's so freeing. Like just to think of things in a different state of mind.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll get into, I'm trying not to get too far because we could go all day with this. And so, you know, with this series, I know last series we had 4 episodes, I think, 4 or 5 episodes. This one, we don't even have a number right now because we just go see how it rolls.
A lot of good deets in here that we're going to decipher. And we're hoping, again, as always, that there are some nuggets that you guys can take and apply to your lives, because it's things that we definitely want to apply to our lives if we haven't already. And there's things that we do. I mean, when you read it, you just learn new things about yourself. So that's what I enjoy about reading my Bible is I get to see how I am even then in the Bible in present time. You just got to read the Bible to understand what I mean by that. But when you do, you're like, oh my God, this is talking to me. And so thank you for your word. But as always, we pray and hope that this early introduction is something that entices you to come back and join us for some more episodes here on Happily Ever After Hours. My name is Travis. This is my lovely bride, Bree, and our beautiful daughter, Miss Robin Ann.